Madeline, welcome to the show. Please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do.
My name is Madeline, and I'm a current first semester graduate student here at UTSA at the Department of Communications. My concentration is health communication, so my research is all in health comm. So I'm currently also a GRA, so a graduate research assistant. What I'm doing now is related to what I'm going to eventually do in a thesis, which is working in maternal health here in San Antonio. So as a graduate student and as a research assistant, it's a 2-year program. I'm working with pregnant women in San Antonio, and we're just doing research on how the heat impacts pregnant women. So while doing that, I'm doing like literature reviews. I'm conducting the surveys. I'm going to these different nonprofit organizations that cater to pregnant women. So as a graduate student, I'm not just going to my classes, but I'm also doing like hands-on, I say field work or hands-on experience. So as a graduate student, that kind of helps you in your courses. Because right now, you're going to be learning about performing literature reviews, qualitative or quantitative research. You're getting your foot into it and seeing what kind of research you like to do. At the beginning, you have no choice and you have to do qualitative and quantitative, but eventually you're going to have a feel of it and then feel what you like most. So I know grad school might be intimidating. However, in the Department of Communication, it's very opening. They're there for you in every step of the way. So it's not just throwing you into it and you're just, do whatever or let you sink or anything. You don't have to know right away what you want to do, what your thesis is. And I know that might be intimidating, but there's also other ways. There's also like the project route. If you want to work hands-on with a nonprofit, you can also do that instead of doing a thesis. There's also the comprehensive exam. But all of this is just to give you more knowledge of everything, a bunch of research that you're interested to. If anything, I think it helps you along the way. Other than like undergrad, which was a lot of courses, I think with grad school, it's a lot of writing, a lot of research, and a lot of reading. But I like it. I think it's interesting. You don't have to do health comm. There's also digital communication. If you're more into that, there's a lot of professors in the communication department. Their main focus and all their research is in digital communication. And you can take those courses that are related to what you're interested. I'm related into health communication, so I take courses that are related to that, like Dr. Khan or Dr. Klein in the communication department. So there's different ways that you can have a different concentration in that. And then that's what your main focus is, and you do your research on it. So it makes it more interesting for you and when you're taking those classes. But yeah.
Well, I know that some people who heard words like thesis and project, research, and reading might be intimidated or might think, wait a second, is grad school for me? I've been in school a while. I'm ready to get out. What would you say to those who are on the fence? Because I know that our UTSA professors who teach in the graduate program are incredibly talented to work with. What are some other things that you would encourage them to think about when considering graduate school?
Well, I was that person. I was on fence. I didn't know if I wanted to go to grad school. I was still 50-50. Even I would say the last day of the semester, I still didn't know if I wanted to do grad school. I was very intimidated by thesis. I was like, oh my God, I cannot do X amount of pages. Like, that is just not me. I'm ready to just get out. However, talking with your advisor, I think makes the biggest difference. I also talked to the communication advisor for grad school, and he, reassured me. He made me feel more confident. And he said about the different ways that, all the professors in the department are there for you. So I would say communicate with your advisor, see if it's a good fit for you. You can take it in a way that you can be a full-time student, or if that's too much, or you have a job, you can do a part-time, which is only like 1 or 2 classes per semester. So you don't feel overwhelmed. So I think that's also something that people might forget. It's not 4 classes, even for a full-time grad student, it's 3 classes as a full-time student. And even then everyone takes it in their own pace. And I think that's important to know. And, you can do 1 class a semester or 2 classes a semester. And you can do that for the first 2 semesters if you want to give it a feel and don't want to overwhelm yourself. And I think that's a great option to do.
That whole idea of, 3 classes max is because people are working. Usually people have full-time jobs. They have research responsibilities like you do, or they have teaching assistantship responsibilities like you do that not only help to fund their experiences,
Yeah.
but also inform the research. Can you talk a little bit about the relationship between your positions that you're paid for and the actual work that you're doing in grad school?
Yeah, so it's a lot of work. So as a TA and a GRA and then a full-time grad student, I say it could at first it was overwhelming. I will say it does get overwhelming at times, but that's because I put a lot on my plate. I could just have one, I could have one of the either TA or be a GRA and a full-time grad student. However, I think being a GRA has helped me become a better graduate student in my courses. A lot of information that I learned in my courses, 'cause this is my first semester, I already knew about it in my GRA position because I started over the summer before the classes started. So I already had a feel of what it was going to be.
Yeah, principal
So
investigator.
she's
Yeah.
the main one. She's my boss in the research grant. So she's the one on it and I'm her assistant. So that's my PI. Yeah, she's helped me a lot in my courses as well as the research being related to health communication. So eventually down the line, the research that I'm doing is not only going to help me make my own thesis route of what I want to research and write about. So I'll have that as help. And she's told me about it that, that's what these positions are for, is to help students in their own work, in their own research as well.
Very rarely do we have someone who's both a graduate researcher and a graduate teaching
Mhm.
assistant. So I think that people listening to this might be like, oh no, I have to do both. But
No.
no, you can do neither and work your full-time job, your 9 to 5 kind of job or more, and still actually have a graduate school experience. Can you speak a little bit about that dimension of it?
Yeah, so a lot of my friends in grad school, they're not taking any TA, GRA, they're just doing graduate school because they work that 9 to 5. I can't imagine Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 at work, and then they go directly to campus for class. So they're still doing graduate school. They're just not doing any of the extra stuff like TA and GRA, which is not mandatory at all. And you do not need that obviously on your resume or anything like that. I think you already have enough on your plate while doing a 9 to 5 and graduate school. So again, it's not necessary at all. And I think as long as you do your best in grad school and you're passing and you're putting your most effort in it, I think that's the most important. I don't think you should add more on your plate if you're already feeling a little bit overwhelmed. I have one person in my classes that's a high school teacher, so that's a not only does she work a 9 to 5, but she also grades after work. So her job doesn't end at 5 p.m. She has to come home and grade papers and grade all of this, which is, a lot of work, and then do her own papers in graduate school. So obviously she's not going to be doing any GRA or TA, but she's still doing the full experience of graduate school because she's completing all of that. Just some people are in different places in life, but we're all in graduate school. So that's the one thing we have in common.
I know that people might be thinking about becoming a teaching assistant. Can you talk about some of the demands and the rewards of being a teaching assistant?
Yeah, so this was my first time. So I didn't have like a full picture. I didn't know really much what it was going to be, but I think it was a great experience and I'm definitely going to apply for it again next semester. But again, it's a lot of time. So you need to have time for that for sure. You got to dedicate like a few days, many hours to grade and to give like that full feedback to these students because these students look at that feedback. As a undergrad student, I would look at my feedback because I've had taken his class of Professor Rick Furson's. I think I've taken 2 or 3 of your classes, and I've always looked at the feedback that I've had given just to apply for your next assignments. Making sure you dedicate a few hours just so these students can actually get that feedback and apply it. So again, a few hours, a few days, and then some great rewards is actually doing office hours. I think is my favorite because at the beginning, obviously, there's more people, but at the end, it kind of dies down. But there will always be a student that will be there in office hours, and I think it's just good to form a relationship like a with the TA and the student, and just talking about the assignments, and you get to know them and how much or why they want to pursue this degree or why they want to get a in this class. You kind of understand their perspective a little bit better. And then they'll email you for questions because they feel comfortable enough to email you, whether it's at 1 a.m. or something for an assignment that's due the next day. I think it's great. You form relationships with them and it makes you better I would say for graduate school, looking at the feedback I'm giving to these students, I'm like, okay, you know what? I need to apply this as well for my writing. This is missing or the citations are incorrect. It makes you more self-aware when you're doing your own work. I'm looking at mine and I'm like, okay, did I follow the rubric? not from what I just remember, but also looking back into the rubric. Because while grading, sometimes you look at the rubric if all the necessary components are there. So that makes me self-aware, like, okay, let me take out my rubric that my professor gave me and make sure I'm doing everything that's necessary. So it makes me a better person as well as a TA.
We're always imagining that as students and as people who want to learn, even professional learning outside of a university where you don't have a real rubric, right? We're always trying to put ourselves into the shoes of the other person. But there's nothing like doing it yourself. There's no replacement
Mhm.
activity for actually engaging in the acts of teaching and giving good, substantial feedback for each student. I'm so glad to hear that that has impacted your graduate studies in a
Yeah.
positive way, because we want that, right? We want that for all of our graduate students who, especially those who sign up for a teaching assistantship, for
Mhm.
that symbiotic relationship to exist to where it improves your actual graduate experience as well. Can you think of other dimensions of the graduate experience that might have been improved by having this experience of helping and forming relationships that help students learn?
I would say communicating with the students as well. I think it was interesting seeing what they're going through and what this course, like what they're confused about. We would be talking about, okay, they're confused about this section. Then I'll explain it to them and they'll communicate with this section and then we'll communicate. And then sometimes we'd go back and forth, or I'll be like, let's just do like a video or an office hours during that time and we can talk about it. And going back and forth, screen sharing with the syllabus or the assignment details, which is quite similar because the other day in my class, we had a group of us and we were confused a little bit with the assignment. So then I was like, okay, you know what? Instead of just going back and forth, let's just set up a Zoom meeting and like everyone can just talk right here. We can screen share the assignment and we can do that. And it makes things go from like an hour of going back and forth, emailing or group me, and we can just set up a video, talk about it all at the same time and have the assignment there on the screen share. It makes things so much easier to understand and doesn't waste a time on each end of just going back and forth. That's just the one thing I remember right now because I was like, you know what? Like, let's just set up a Zoom meeting. Like, I was going to say office hours, but I'm like, not office hours, but let's try to do that. And it makes it much easier, much faster way to like collaborate as a group and understand the assignment.
Excellent. Excellent. I love these answers. So, anyone who's considering grad school, anyone who's considering being in a TA specifically,
Mhm.
what's your parting advice for those folks who are considering taking the plunge?
I would say go for it. I would say go for it. It's only for a TA. Do it for a semester, see how it feels. Ask people. You can ask me how it is, how their experience was. I would definitely give any advice for that. Just make sure you can pick out a few days to grade. That's, I would say, the most important thing is having your schedule available. Obviously, if you don't have that availability, then, it might not be an option for that. But as long as you plan a few days, ask questions, even ask professors who have had TAs. I asked my PI and she has a TA and I asked her like what she expects from them. Because I was telling her that I applied and she gave me some advice, what she expects from her TA, on what they do that goes above and beyond and gives advice like that. So contact any professors that have it and get advice from them. Ask other previous TAs and get advice from them and then make your decision for that. But I would say it's a great experience, it's a rewarding experience. It's only for one semester again. So if you say this is a little bit too much for me, then you don't have to apply for the next semester. So I would say go for it. For grad school, I would say again, contact your advisor, talk to grad students, ask them about their experience so far, what you need to know, what you need to be prepared for, and see if this is a good fit. I think it's a rewarding experience. I think it's great. And I'm glad I didn't take a year off from school. I just went directly back into grad school. I feel like I wouldn't have gone back to grad school if I had taken a year off after graduating. And that is why I had to push myself to go for it. And I'll be done, in May 2026. So it's not too far from here.
That's fantastic. And congratulations. That is right around the corner.
Yeah.
Where can people contact you if they want to get more information or they want to just maybe ask you a quick question? Are you available online to be reached?
Yeah, I have my email out there. We could probably just share it, but I'm open. I have my email there. I'm on that thing 24/7. I have everyone contacting students, GRA, TA. So I have my email on that. So we could either set up a Zoom meeting or anything. I would be open to that. You can contact me through email, group me, Instagram, even if that's easier. All the socials, I'll be available.
So Instagram, and I know you're on LinkedIn too, right? For people who might want to DM you on the socials, it's Instagram and LinkedIn. Is that correct?
Correct.
Awesome. Well, again, Madeline, thank you so much for sharing your experience and your wisdom around graduate school and being a teaching assistant.
So yeah, thank you.